Hello dear viewers who came across this video. Welcome to the first episode of Fiction Talks. I was not able to find a single video on this platform that explains the fundamental differences between Stephen King's novel The Shining and Stanley Kubrick's film of the same name. I will not talk about small differences such as door numbers. I will tell you what truly makes both stories so different. So let's begin. The first fundamental difference is the source of evil in the story. In the film, it is implied that the evil that makes Jack attempt to kill his family comes from a psychological source, meaning within himself. It is the source of evil that lies within the human mind. That's why the film tells in the most spectacular, cinematic way the story of Jack's descent into madness. In the novel, the evil comes from a supernatural source. Therefore, the presence of supernatural manifestations such as ghosts, possessed objects, and psychic abilities makes perfect sense. The second fundamental difference is related to characters' motivation and development. To further explore this subject, we're going to focus on the characters of Jack Torrance and the Overlook Hotel. And yes, the hotel itself is a character in one of the versions. Please hold that thought. Let's start with the Jack Torrance of the novel. In King's book, Jack is pretty much a regular man who is struggling to maintain himself sober, provide money and care for his family, while also trying to fulfill his dream to become a writer and finish a play he's been working on for a long time. In the novel, we can take a look at Jack's past in order to understand why he's dealing with bad temper and alcoholism. Jack had an abusive alcoholic father who used to beat his mother constantly in front of him and his siblings. At one point, his mother had to be taken to the hospital due to her wounds. Then his father lied about how she got hurt, and her mom did not contradict him. Due to his dysfunctional family and the violence towards Jack too, he started to develop anger control problems since he was a child. And through all of his life, he presented episodes of physical violence towards animals and people. Despite all of that, Jack also shows many instances of true love for his family, like affection for Wendy and concern for Danny's well-being. Now let's go to the character of the Overlook Hotel in the novel. In this case, it's clearly established that the Overlook is haunted. Many different people along its entire existence have died in horrible and bloody ways. The Overlook is a place that attracts death and suffering, becoming stronger with every tragedy that takes place in there. The hotel can use its supernatural power to make inanimate objects move and attack people at will. The Overlook Hotel is an evil, supernatural entity that can bring its ghost residents to the physical dimension, so they hurt everyone who's around and continue with the hotel's agenda of death, suffering, and destruction. It is the evil force within the hotel that takes advantage of Jack's already unstable mind to make him try to kill his family. There is a great scene at the climax of the novel when Jack recovers for a moment control over his possessed body when chasing Danny and urges him to escape. Listen. The face in front of him changed. Suddenly his daddy was there, looking at him in mortal agony, and a sorrow so great that Danny's heart flamed within his chest. "Doc," Jack Torrance said, "run away quickly, and remember how much I love you." It is so devastating because you can clearly distinguish Jack and his true and best self from the murderous victim of supernatural possession he later becomes. To conclude, I must mention that the Overlook Hotel is not merely a setting for the story, it is the main antagonist in Stephen King's book. I hope you're not tired of my tedious voice yet, because it's now the turn of Jack Torrance and Stanley Kubrick version. In this version of the character, Jack is also an alcoholic with anger problems. However, the difference relies on the fact that in the film we do not have much background story about the origins of his mind issues. The relationship with Danny and Wendy seems also a bit colder in comparison to the novel because he hardly ever shows any signs of affection for them. In order to understand the reason why director Stanley Kubrick chose this approach to reimagine Jack's character is because he needed to focus on the instability of his mind that will eventually lead him into his murderous path. It'd be really hard to believe that a perfectly sane and happy man can become a murderer out of nowhere or with so little intrinsic motivation. The following difference is that I consider the overall in this movie a setting rather than a character. It works effectively as a setting because take into account that it is isolated from civilization, and the fact that it's huge, lonely, and hard to live once the snows come, it makes them seem like a trap and the perfect place for Jack's mental problems to take over him. If you want to see a video that dives into the audiovisual storytelling techniques used by Stanley Kubrick and the ones for which this movie is so famous, please check the video The Shining Quietly Going Insane Together by Lessons from the Screenplay. It is awesome and very professionally made. I'll leave the link down below. As a final interesting side note, the Kubrick film inspired the music video The Kill by 30 Seconds to Mars. Actually, director, singer, and songwriter Jared Leto mentioned in an interview that the song refers to someone's inner conflict. If you watch the video, it depicts the duality inside a person's mind and the struggle to face that part of yourself that you hate or that you're sick of. Finally, I would like to mention that I do like the two versions of the story. They are two forms of art, two forms of storytelling that explore good and evil with different emphasis on perceptions. Thanks for listening. Please leave a comment and I would love to answer and discuss this fascinating subject with you all. Bye guys.